Right.
Like it's an appendage. It's another limb that you need to get around on. And because, those types of, prescriptions that the body becomes very dependent on them. Mm-hmm. And you can't just, cold turkey off a lot of those prescriptions. For instance, blood pressure meds. Haven't you ever heard of a relative friend say, I'm on this blood pressure med and the doctor says, don't ever cold turkey off of this. And do you know why they say that?
Is that because of, I guess, the reactions that would happen when their body, doesn't get access to it, right?
Right. Well, exactly. For instance, the blood pressure meds, your brain will send a chemical signal to the heart when it's not getting enough oxygen-rich blood. And so then the heart will pick up the pace and your blood pressure goes up. Okay. So what happens when you take the blood pressure medicine is that drug blocks that signal that the brain is sending to the heart. So the heart doesn't get the signal and then it stops pumping so hard. So it artificially lowers the blood pressure numbers. But the problem is your brain is still sending that signal. It's just blocked. And the moment you go off that medicine, you're going to have an artificially strong signal sent right down the central nervous system to the heart where you can have a heart attack or stroke. So that's the reason they say that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just crazy. Yeah, it's just so...
Yeah, it's sort of like, the building's on fire, the fire truck rolls up, the firemen, they jump off the truck, and they don't take the hoses off and try to put out the fire. They run into the building real quick, and they disconnect the fire alarm and then run back out and get on the truck and leave. And the building burns down to the ground. So that's basically a scenario of how modern medicine treats symptom, not getting at the cause.
Right. And I think in the end, it really just creates an even greater dependence upon their treatments because it's not really empowering. You don't walk away from using those types of medicines thinking, oh, I'm empowered. I have a little bit of knowledge. I know how the body works a little bit more. You just become more dependent. You think symptom and then you think pill, and that's basically it.
Well, and, a lot of people, they it's just how they look at it. I look at natural versus allopathic medicine like horse to water. It's what you believe in, okay? And some people say, I'm relatively healthy. You ask a person, how healthy are you? They'll say, hey, I'm doing great. I'm relatively healthy. And they're on like 3 or 4 prescription meds, and they have to rely on those to function throughout their day. That, to me, is not health.
Right.
But a lot of people, it's the way they look at it. So, basically, you have to be really cautious. Do your homework on your medicines. Some medicines, or you can maybe use them in a short term to stabilize. But then, if it were me, I'd be researching something else to strengthen that area of the body so it's not weak, needing a pharmaceutical product.
Now, I've heard that herbs, when you said strengthen there, I've heard the analogy that herbs are sort of like your internal workout system. Like you're going to the gym because a certain herb might effectively strengthen and tonify a certain organ, and so it's almost similar to like going to the gym internally. Is that kind of how herbs work with their alkaloids and all of that?
Yeah, some herbs are really, really targeted. I have to just marvel at some of the color coding that our creator put together. If you look at a lot of the herbs for the cardiovascular system, the heart, those are red in color. It's really interesting. It's like the color of blood. So it's really easy to follow along that color coded path when it comes to the heart herbs. But yeah, I mean, you got to be real careful. Like certain medicines, like for instance, the thyroid meds that people take. And the thing about some of our organs, Justin, is that if you take these drugs, some of these drugs replace the job that the organ was initially to do. And so it takes kind of, it's like, taking your football player and putting him on the bench. You make him sit out of the game, And then after a while, that football player, if he doesn't get a workout, what happens? He loses a lot of his skill, his agility, his strength, and that's exactly what happens to organs like the thyroid. And some organs can even atrophy if they're not going to be put back in the game.
That's interesting. So now, as far as your herbs, what do you think about tonics versus herbs that you would just take for a short period of time? Like you mentioned echinacea earlier. That would that be a tonic or not?
Well, echinacea is an excellent herb for the immune system. It does a wonderful job of stimulating your natural immunity. See, herbs work with your system. So in other words, echinacea is going to